So Performapal 5 Rainbow Magician is gaining a lot in popularity right now, and it really makes sense why. It basically acts as a Mystic Mine against Super Heavy Samurai because they need to be able to set a spell or trap card if they want to be able to activate their effect of monsters on the field, or if they want to attack with them. And that deck typically plays 40 monsters, no spells, no traps, because otherwise it shuts down the effects of the Super Heavy Samurai monsters. And also it affects the player, not the card, so even monsters unaffected by card effects still lose out to 5 Rainbow Magician. But it doesn't do anything about continuous effects, so Spell Canceller is still a really effective way of dealing with 5 Rainbow Magician. But also Pendulum skill effects are also a way to out 5 Rainbow Magician, so Archfin Eccentric, Mythical Beast Garuda, or even Master Pendulum. But if you're going first and your opponent activates the 5 Rainbow Magician going second, it might be hard for you to activate these skills because you're usually ending your turn with full skills. And let's just say that you summon Spell Canceller on turn 1 to stop your opponent's plays. If your opponent can find a way to jump over the Spell Canceller, which is pretty easy because it only has, I believe, 2100 attack if it's boosted by Saryuja, your opponent can still activate 5 Rainbow Magician on main phase 2 and then you lose. And you're really not trying to use negates like Baron de Fleur against 5 Rainbow Magician because the card has a really nasty graveyard effect. Basically, every single time you set a spell or trap card, you can reset back the 5 Rainbow Magician from graveyard to your Pendulum skill. One good way to stop 5 Rainbow Magician if you're really not trying to, turbo out Spell Canceller on turn 1 every single time is end on Ninja Sarutobi. It doesn't negate the activation of anything, it actually lets the activation resolve successfully, but then it destroys the card immediately, meaning that the 5 Rainbow will be going to the extra deck instead of the graveyard. But there is one out that surpasses all the cards I just listed. And of course, it can be used under 5 Rainbow Magician, unlike Sarutobi, obviously. The card I'm talking about is the new TCG exclusive level 6 Synchro monster, which is Golden Cloud Beast Malong. Its on-field effect is completely irrelevant, but its graveyard effect is really similar to Elder Entity Entis, but instead of destroying a card, you bounce back a card. And that's actually a really good thing, because against Purely, if you actually had to destroy a card, it would lose out to Happy Memory, but if you're bouncing back a card, there's pretty much nothing your opponent can do about it. And you don't necessarily have to deviate too much from your usual combo line if you're really turboing this card out going second, and you really have to OTK, because otherwise the 5 Rainbow is just gonna re-emerge because it is in your opponent's hand and not like banished or something. To avoid that, you can end on Sarutobi or Spell Canceller, or just hold the Spell Canceller after searching it with Clifford Genius. You don't want to be too impatient and like waste all of your outs to 5 Rainbow, because if your opponent can actually survive and then clear your outs, then the 5 Rainbow becomes unoutable. Being conservative and maximizing your options and answers to various problems is definitely the key here. We've already covered how hand traps like Drill and Shifter, albeit being really good, are still not necessarily enough to shut down Super Heavy Samurai completely. And the reason for that is because even though they can't fully combo off, they can still end on Baguska Pass, which is still usually good. It's not always enough to shut down a deck completely, but sometimes it's enough to make them go into a worse line of play, and then their end board after that is not really good. This allows Super Heavy Samurai to make a comeback on turn 3, and usually they will win after that. And even Nibiru is not that good because obviously on its own it just gets negated by Baron de Fleur. And even if, let's say you have Nibiru and Imperm, it might still not be enough because your opponent can Synchro Summon an unaffected by card effects Baron de Fleur using Axial Synchro into Stardust Dragon into Baron de Fleur. And of course, Lava Golem and Sphere Mode are fantastic against the deck, but hey, maybe you're gonna draw them when your opponent is only going to be going Baguska Pass. With all that being said, Super Heavy Samurai is also kind of a pick your poison kind of deck. It can't realistically have answers to everything, and it's not that resourceful because again, it can't play spells and traps, and it only has 15 slots in the extra deck. And that's the reason why a lot of Super Heavy Samurai players are actually side decking a bunch of extra deck cards in order to incorporate to their strategy when they're going first or second. For example, there is absolutely no reason to main deck Saryuja because you're only going to be playing it 1 game out of 3, and that is very specifically post game 1 when you're going first. Saryuja is there just because after you search Spell Canceller with Clifford Genius, you want to wait to special summon it from the hand because you already Pendulum summoned at that point. And with a similar way of thinking, Golden Cloud Beast Malong could also be a really good card to side deck. You only really need it to outperform Pal 5 Rainbow Magician, otherwise it's usually useless. The odds of getting hit by that card game 1 are so minuscule that you might as well just not respect it on game 1. I just disagree that people are cutting the utility cards from their extra deck because they will definitely need it on game 1, 2, and 3, such as, Access Code, Unicorn, and Asa. But other cards like Stardust Dragon, Golden Cloud Beast Malong, and Saryuja are usually better off in the side deck if you have the space at least. And I also don't really believe that Underworld Goddess is really worth your extra deck space because you can already out Expurli Noir searching the Jizukir with Clifford Genius. So my advice for every non-Super Heavy Samurai player is be aware of their extra deck and side deck patterns. If everybody is starting to play cards like Stardust Dragon to counter Nibiru, Imperm, or whatever, then stop playing those cards and start playing 5 Rainbow instead. And if everybody's starting to play Golden Cloud Beast Malong, then stop playing 5 Rainbow Magician and start playing Nibiru, Imperm instead. It's basically an infinite loop that is based on the concept of trends, and you as a player have to adapt yourself to whatever people choose to play in any given event. Anyways, that's pretty much all I had to say for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts about Super Heavy Samurai and how they can deal with floodgates and hand traps in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.